I just have one other question about the singing together and the brothers thing. What is it, do you think? Is it a physical, like a DNA thing that makes brothers or sisters or families sound so perfect together when they sing harmonies? Like the Everly brothers.
I think it is a physical thing. I think it is. I don't think it's obviously there's an understanding if you're growing up together, there's that as well, that helps. But I think it is a physical thing, yeah.
Do you have that moment ever when you go, what are you doing there, Charlie? Or what are you doing there, Craig?
I suppose you do, and then occasionally you'll look at each other and say, what was that about? So, but generally we work it out before we go on stage. What we do, as anybody who's listened to can see, is pretty rough. Yeah. So you try to get the rough idea and hold to that. Not white line it, but hold to the basic idea and the drive of it, and hopefully the band, because they rehearse the band a lot as well, they're comfortable. So as the overall sound is powerful, and it doesn't sound like you've just woken up and done it. There is a degree of craft about it, even by our standards, a degree of craft.
Now you're old hats at this business, right? I wonder what you're like bringing the next generation through, or giving people that first rung on the ladder, because you yourselves were helped out by the house marches, weren't you?
That's right.
Take us back to that. What happened with regards to that?
Just a couple of people helped us out in the career. First, it was Kevin Rowland with Dexys, who gave us time for demoing and stuff like that, and spoke to people, publishers and that on our behalf. And then, most notably, in terms of getting the deal, it was the House Martins. Now, they'd heard somebody giving them a tape at a gig in Scotland. The guy, unfortunately, who gave them a tape is no longer with us. He died, but they put out an appeal on the Janice Long show, which was on Radio 1 at that time, and said, has anybody heard this band? And then someone else we knew phoned us and said, because we hadn't heard the show, you got to get in contact. So we ended up going to Hull and staying with them on a Friday night and going for a pub crawl in Hull, and then getting up really early the next morning to get the bus back to Edinburgh, which shows how long ago it was. And they offered us a tour. I think because we could drink with them, we could tour with them.
They were testing you out, you think?
Yeah, those boys could drink.
They were.
Yes.
It's amazing to think, though, that is a door that had previously been closed to you, and all of a sudden there's a little chink in there, and now we are sitting here talking about yet another album after being touring and playing and recording music for such a long time.
And it is. Sometimes you need a break, and there's plenty of people who are really good who maybe never get the break. I don't know what it is. We hadn't done anything differently for about 2 or 3 years, and I got nowhere.
And do you think people in Leith are very proud of you?
I hope the family's proud of us, first and foremost. Then I hope other people in Scotland are proud of us.
And you're obviously very proud of Scotland, and you're quite strong in your political views about it. How are you feeling about the way politics are going, with the SNP being touted as many as being kingmakers in this next election?
I think it's very exciting. I mean, I think obviously we have to wait till the votes are counted, but the polls don't seem to be moving. There was no doubt that the independence referendum politicised Scotland. I think Scotland is the most politicised country in Western Europe now, especially young people, especially women. It's been amazing. And I think that I don't know where it's going to go, where it's going to take us, but it's very exciting times. I know, speaking to people down here saying, that it's a bit boring, the election in Scotland. It's not. It's really, really exciting.
I can attest to that, because I was up in Glasgow to do our kind of election launch thing and talking to reporters up there. And if you go out normally in a town and you try and get vox pops of people saying things, you go, oh no, I don't want to. But see, in Scotland, everybody's like, right, where do we start? Absolutely. But as you say, energised by the referendum. So even though the referendum, Charlie, wasn't the result that you necessarily would have wanted, it doesn't seem to have stopped political momentum.
It was interesting when we were younger. People used to say to us, look, there's only 20-25% maximum people who want independence in Scotland. Well, the independence thing was not won, but there was a little under half the people voted for it. So it would indicate to me, in the demographic of the people who voted for it, mostly they were younger, mostly they were poorer. A lot of older people and rich people voted no, and a lot of young people voted yes. So in the next few years, perhaps the balance may change again. I don't know. I wouldn't presume anything. I don't think there's any inevitability about it. I think the only inevitability is that the politics in these islands is changing. And it's changing because of what happens in Scotland, which will knock on to Wales and will definitely knock on to the north of England as well, in my view. If you say to Scots people, we want you to stay, we want to engage in British politics, then you can't then turn around and say, but don't vote for that party. Don't vote for that party. If Labour or Tories have a difficulty in getting a majority, that's their problem, as far as I would say, as far as I see it.
Are you going to write Nicola Sturgeon into one of your songs?
How do you know it's not in there?
I don't know how well it scans. I'm a big admirer, but I don't know how well her name scans.
Yeah, it's difficult to get something to rhyme with sturgeon, to be fair. Lots of sexist criticism, though, for her around at the moment, Craig. What do you make of all of that and the mock-up in the Sun newspaper of her in a tartan bikini?
I think a lot of it is down to the fact that she kind of burst onto the scene in England just with the leaders' debates. A lot more politically interested people knew who she was and knew that Alex Salmond was no longer the leader of the SNP. But I think her performances in the leaders' debates have energised people. She believes what she's saying. That's why she's coming over well.
In the build-up to the referendum last year, the Commonwealth Games were taking place in Glasgow. Yeah. And when we covered it for the BBC, we couldn't mention the referendum because obviously there was a shadow over everything.
Yes.
Do you regret not being part of that Commonwealth Games now, looking back?
No, don't regret it. We were engaged in completing the writing of this record and getting it together, you know. So we were asked and we said no. We knew it. We were asked months before and we said no.
But the opening ceremony missed you. It had everything else apart from you.
I think they could do it without us. I think they can do it without us.
Everybody said when they're watching it, where were the Proclaimers?
They got Lulu, and we're a big fans of Lulu. So I think we were there in spirit.
Did you know when you first wrote that you had a beauty? Because it didn't go. It wasn't particularly high in the charts.
No,
was it
when
when it first came out?
11. The album was platinum and bit, and it sold a lot of albums. But it was a much bigger song in Australia and New Zealand, then in Canada, and then it was a really big hit in America a few years later. You know, but it's one of these songs that. Sometimes the songs that hang around that have 2 or 3 lives are not the ones that are the biggest hits at the time. Sometimes the kind of medium-sized hits, and then they just catch the attention or the imagination of the public.
I remember talking to Baddiel and Skinner when they wrote 3 lines, and they said when that was being sung at Wembley during Euro '96, of all their achievements, that stood out. They've got thousands of people singing words that they have written. When the Scottish fans sing 500 Miles, when they play Sunshine on Leith at Hibs, when people are singing your music, I want you to tell us, if you can, put into words, Charlie, what is that like when something that you two have written together as brothers is being sung and enjoyed by thousands of people around you? I
think it's the ultimate accolade. I always think the modern equivalent of a folk song, the old days of folk song was something that was passed down, the oral tradition, particularly in the Celtic world, and the verses would change, and then it would go to America, it become a slightly different song in America, and then that's my idea of a folk song. The modern adoption to me of a folk song is when the people start singing it. So the big communal occasions, like a festival, but if you get it at a football match or a rugby match or cricket or something like that, then that's much bigger because it's going through something that's not been played at them so much. It's kind of they've adopted it, so the people adopt your song. So that I think is by far the best accolade you can ever get, really.
Same for you, Craig?
Yeah, absolutely. It's when you hear people, sometimes it comes out of nowhere, you know, and that's like, it's kind of a wee bit strange, but no, it is fantastic. Yeah.
Shall we listen to a bit of it? Come on, we can't have the Proclaimers on without a bit of 500 Miles.
When I wake up, well, I know I'm gonna be the man who wakes up next to you. When I go out, yeah, I know I'm gonna be the man who goes along with you. If I get drunk, well, I know I'm gonna be the man who gets drunk next to you. And if I heaver, yeah, I know I'm gonna be the man who's heavering to you. But I would walk 500 miles and I would walk 500 more to be the man who walked 1,000 miles to fall down at your door. When I'm walking.
Fellas, have you ever done a gig without that?
I think we'd be lynched if we did it. We did it at acoustic shows in America a number of years ago, and the guy that works for us here said, look, just play the gig and then do it as an encore. But, you know, we would not have got away without doing it as an encore. Yeah.
And if I haver?
If I havering's just talking rubbish. That's all it is. But the Americans thought it was something else when it was a hit in America.
Heaver? Is it like being vomiting or something? You know, it's Heaver, no, it's Haver, because it's the way we say it, it's Heaver.
Well, it's been fantastic havering with you.
Thank you very much.
Enjoyed it.
Thank you.
Just tell us the tour dates. Where can we see you this summer?
We're all over. We start in late May in Scotland doing 2 or 3 warm-up dates, and then we're all over the country over the summer festivals, and then there's a big British tour starting October, running through to pretty much to Christmas.
Okay, if you go and see the Proclaimers, there's the guarantee you will hear 500
We will,
miles.
yes, you
Charlie Craig, it's been great to talk to you.
Thank you
for
both.
coming on
Thank
the
you.
programme.
Thank you very much.
And they never do the same set twice.
I know.
How do they manage that?
I know, always rehearse about 40 odd songs, don't they? But they never do it in the same order. So if you see them a few times, you'll never see the same gig. Let's hear it for the Dogs. Their 10th album is out now.